My heart stopped when I saw it. Just a quick glance at his phone as it lit up with a notification, but that was all it took. The wallpaper wasn't our anniversary photo anymore. The one from our trip to Cape Cod last year, with the sunset painting our faces in gold and our arms wrapped around each other. Instead, there she was, Melissa, his assistant, posing on a beach in a bright blue bikini, her smile wide and her pose deliberately flirtatious. I froze, coffee mug halfway to my lips as Tom grabbed his phone and quickly turned it face down on the kitchen counter. But he'd seen my expression. I hadn't been quick enough to hide it. New phone background? I asked, trying to keep my voice casual while my stomach twisted into knots. Oh, that, he laughed, but it sounded hollow. The guys from accounting sent that in the group chat. Must have saved it by accident when I was trying to download those budget files yesterday. I nodded and smiled weakly, pretending to believe him. 15 years of marriage had taught me to read his tells, the way his left eye twitched slightly, how he suddenly became very interested in straightening the salt and pepper shakers. He was lying and we both knew it. I'll fix it right now, he said, picking up his phone again. Stupid thing. Technology, right? Don't worry about it, I replied, turning to rinse my mug in the sink so he wouldn't see my face. I need to get going anyway. Parent-teacher conferences tonight, remember? I'll be home late. That was 3 weeks ago and it was just the beginning. The wallpaper incident might have been something I could dismiss. A momentary lapse in judgment, a stupid mistake. But it wasn't isolated. The signs had been building for months and I'd been deliberately looking away, not wanting to see what was happening right in front of me. The late nights at the office had started in February. At first it was once a week, an important project, he said. Then twice. By April he was coming home after 9 p.m. at least 3 times a week, smelling faintly of unfamiliar perfume and restaurant food. The Anderson account is killing me, he'd explain, loosening his tie and avoiding my eyes. We ordered takeout and worked through dinner again. I'd nod and warm up the plate I'd left for him in the oven, even though I knew he probably wasn't hungry. The Anderson account had been mentioned in every conversation for months, yet somehow he never shared any actual details about it. When May rolled around and the company picnic was scheduled, I decided to go for the first time in years. Usually, I skipped these events. Making small talk with Tom's colleagues had never been my idea of fun. But this time I had a purpose. You're coming? Tom asked when I told him, surprise evident in his voice. I thought you hated these things. I thought I should make an effort, I replied with a smile that didn't reach my eyes. Besides, I haven't met your new assistant yet. Melissa, right? You've mentioned her a few times. His face changed so quickly I almost missed it, a flash of panic quickly controlled. Sure, yeah. She's good. Efficient. The picnic was held at a local park, all forced cheerfulness and awkward volleyball games. I spotted her immediately, tall, blonde, at least 10 years younger than my 48 years. She was laughing with a group of coworkers, but her eyes kept darting to where Tom stood by the grill, pretending to be engrossed in conversation with his boss. When Tom finally introduced us, her handshake was firm, her smile professional. But there was something in her eyes, a mixture of guilt and challenge that made my skin crawl. Tom's told me so much about you, she said, her voice honey-sweet. He keeps your photo on his desk. Such a cute couple. I smiled back, wondering which photo he kept displayed. Probably not our most recent one. That night, while Tom showered, I did something I'd never done before. I checked his wallet. Behind his driver's license, I found receipts. One for a bracelet from a jewelry store downtown that I'd never received. Another for a dinner at Riccardo's, an expensive Italian restaurant we hadn't visited in years. The date on the receipt was last Tuesday, one of his late work nights. The final confirmation came on our anniversary. 15 years should have been special, but Tom seemed distracted throughout our dinner at the steakhouse where he'd proposed. Every few minutes his phone would light up with notifications, and he'd glance down, typing quick responses under the table when he thought I wasn't looking. Work emergency? I asked finally, setting down my barely touched dessert. Just the Anderson account again, he muttered, not looking up. Sorry babe. You know how it is. I did know how it was, finally. The anniversary dinner ended early with Tom claiming a headache. As we drove home in silence, I realized I had a decision to make. I could confront him now with nothing but suspicions and a few receipts. Or I could find out exactly what I was dealing with. I thought about the home security cameras we'd installed last year after a break-in down the street. The ones with the app that let you check footage remotely. The ones that covered our front door, our driveway, and because I'd insisted, our upstairs hallway. My hand tightened around my purse as we pulled into our driveway. Inside was my own phone with the security app I'd barely used until now. Tonight that would change. There would be no more looking away, no more pretending not to notice. It was time to see exactly what happened in our house when I wasn't home. The next morning, Tom left earlier than usual, mumbling something about a breakfast meeting with clients. I waited until his car disappeared down the street before I grabbed my laptop and opened the security app. My fingers trembled slightly as I entered the password and navigated to the recorded footage. At first I found nothing suspicious. Just ordinary comings and goings, the occasional delivery person, neighborhood kids walking past our house. But then I noticed something odd about last Wednesday, a day I'd volunteered at the community center's literacy program. Around 2 p.m., a sleek red Mazda pulled into our driveway. The timestamp showed 2:17 p.m. A minute later, Melissa stepped out, looking around nervously before approaching our front door. My throat tightened as I watched Tom open the door, his face lighting up in a way I hadn't seen in months. He pulled her into an embrace that lasted too long to be professional, his hand resting at the small of her back as they disappeared inside. I slammed the laptop shut, unable to watch more. The room spun around me as I struggled to breathe. Knowing something and seeing it were entirely different things. I walked to the bathroom and splashed cold water on my face, staring at my reflection. The woman looking back at me seemed older somehow, the lines around her eyes deeper than I remembered. That evening, I was in the kitchen making dinner when I heard Tom's voice from his home office. He thought I was still out grocery shopping. I'd returned early but hadn't announced myself yet. "We need to be more careful," he was saying, his voice low and urgent. "She almost saw the picture yesterday." Pause. He was listening to someone on the other end. "No, of course not. Look, we've talked about this. Just a few more weeks, okay? I promise." I froze, wooden spoon clutched in my hand, sauce dripping onto the floor. A few more weeks until what? Was he planning to leave me? The spoon clattered into the pot as I accidentally bumped against the counter. "I've gotta go," Tom said hurriedly. "Someone's here." I quickly busied myself with stirring the sauce when he appeared in the doorway, his face carefully composed into a neutral expression. "Hey, didn't hear you come in," he said, planting a quick kiss on my cheek that felt like a betrayal. "Smells good." The next day I called my best friend Linda for coffee. We'd been friends since college, and if anyone would give me honest advice, it would be her. The local cafe was busy, but we found a quiet corner table. "You think Tom's having an affair?" she asked after I explained my suspicions, keeping her voice low. "Are you sure you're not reading too much into things? Tom adores you." "That's what I thought too," I replied, stirring my untouched coffee. "But the evidence is adding up, Linda. The late nights, the secret calls, the receipts." She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Maybe there's another explanation. Men can be clueless sometimes. Remember when Dave forgot our anniversary 3 years in a row? I appreciated her attempt to make me feel better, but Dave's forgetfulness was nothing compared to what I suspected Tom was doing. "I'll tell you what," Linda said, "I'm going to the mall this afternoon. Tom's office is right across the street. Why don't I do a little recon? See if I spot anything unusual." I initially rejected the idea, but Linda insisted. "Just to put your mind at ease," she said. 3 hours later she called me, her voice tight with anger. "I saw them," she said without preamble. "At the food court. They weren't even trying to hide it, Sarah." He had his arm around her waist. My heart sank as she described the scene. The intimate lunch, the lingering touches, the way they looked at each other. This wasn't just physical. There were feelings involved. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay beside Tom, listening to his even breathing, wondering how he could rest so peacefully while our marriage crumbled. Around 3 a.m. I slipped out of bed and went to the spare room where we kept our old computer equipment. The security system had been my idea originally, installed after Mrs. Tanner across the street had her house broken into last year. Tom had complained about the expense but eventually agreed. Now I was grateful for my insistence. The system had 4 cameras: front door, back door, garage, and upstairs hallway. The hallway camera had a partial view of our bedroom door. An idea formed in my mind, terrible and necessary all at once. The next day while Tom was at work, I installed a fifth camera, hidden among the books on our bedroom shelf. I felt sick doing it, like I was violating something sacred, but I needed to know the full truth. The following weekend, Tom told me he was going fishing with his buddies, an annual tradition I'd never questioned before. This time I knew better. After he left, I checked the security feed and watched our driveway. Sure enough, about an hour later, the red Mazda appeared. I wasn't home to witness what happened in person. I'd made a show of visiting my sister for the day, but the cameras caught everything. When I returned that evening, the house appeared normal, but I knew our bed had been used by strangers. My bed. Our home. I downloaded the footage to a secure folder, my hands steady despite the storm raging inside me. This wasn't just about collecting evidence anymore. This was about deciding what to do with it. Confrontation seemed pointless now. The betrayal was too deep, too complete. I needed something more impactful, something that would make the truth undeniable. That night, as Tom slept beside me, the audacity of it made my skin crawl. I made my decision. I would send the video to his phone, but not yet. Timing would be everything. My opportunity came 3 days later. I was driving home from school. I teach third grade at Oakwood Elementary, when my car made a terrible grinding noise and stuttered to a stop on Maple Avenue, just 2 miles from our house. Smoke billowed from under the hood as I guided it to the curb. Perfect. Just perfect. I called AAA first, then remembered my phone was nearly dead. Tom would be home by now. He'd claimed to have an early day for once. I needed his number as a backup contact, but my phone died before I could find it. Thankfully, Mrs. Peterson from the corner house recognized me and let me use her landline. When I finally got home an hour later, courtesy of the tow truck driver who'd kindly dropped me off, Tom was in the shower. His phone sat on the coffee table, buzzing with incoming messages. I never checked his phone. It felt like an invasion of privacy, something I valued in our marriage. The irony of that thought made me want to laugh and cry simultaneously. I picked it up, telling myself I just needed A's number from his contacts. But when the screen lit up, I saw 3 notifications from M with heart emojis beside the name. As I stared at the screen, another message appeared, "Missing you already. Last night was amazing." My fingers moved without conscious thought, unlocking his phone. He'd never changed his passcode, our anniversary date. Another painful irony. The messages from M were filled with intimate details and plans for their next meeting. And there it was, a photo of her in that blue bikini, the same one now gracing his wallpaper. My hands trembled as I scrolled through their conversation history, each message another dagger. There were photos of her in various poses, including several taken in what appeared to be hotel rooms. I felt physically ill scrolling through them, but I couldn't stop. I needed to see everything to understand the full extent of his betrayal. The shower stopped running. I quickly closed the messages and returned to the home screen, but in my haste I accidentally tapped on his photo gallery. And there they were, dozens of pictures of them together. Weekend getaways, dinners, selfies in places I recognized and others I didn't. The timestamp on one particularly intimate photo matched the weekend he'd told me he was on a business trip to Denver. I placed the phone exactly where I'd found it and walked to the kitchen, my mind strangely calm despite the chaos of emotions swirling beneath the surface. When Tom came downstairs, hair still damp, I was mindlessly arranging magnets on the refrigerator. "Car trouble?" he asked, glancing at me with what appeared to be genuine concern. "Yeah," I replied, my voice surprisingly steady. "AAA had to tow it. Something with the transmission, they think." "That's rough," he said, grabbing a beer from the fridge. "Want me to take a look at it tomorrow?" I almost laughed at the absurdity, his attempt at playing the helpful husband after what I'd just discovered. Instead, I nodded and asked if I could borrow his phone to call the mechanic since mine was dead. He handed it over without hesitation, his face betraying no anxiety. Either he truly didn't care if I saw the messages, or he was confident I wouldn't look. I made the call, then returned his phone, our fingers brushing in the exchange. I flinched at the contact. "You okay?" he asked, frowning slightly. "You seem off." "Just tired," I replied. "It's been a long day." That night, as Tom slept beside me, I made my final decision. The videos from our bedroom were stored on my private cloud account, the most damning evidence I could imagine. For hours I debated what to do with them. Confronting him directly seemed pointless. He'd already proven himself an accomplished liar. I wanted something more impactful, something that would strip away his ability to deny or explain away his actions. The next day passed in a fog as I finalized my plan. I went through the motions of normal life, teaching my students, attending a faculty meeting, stopping by the grocery store, while the knowledge of what I was about to do hummed beneath the surface of every interaction. When I arrived home, the house was empty. A note on the counter informed me that Tom was working late again. I almost appreciated the cliché. It made what I was about to do easier. I sat up at the dining room table with my laptop and pulled up the most incriminating video from my collection. It showed them entering our bedroom, unaware of the camera hidden among our books. I couldn't bring myself to watch more than the beginning, fast-forwarding through most of it to find a clear shot of their faces together. Undeniable proof of their betrayal in our home, in our bed. I trimmed the video to a 30-second clip that left no doubt about what was happening and who was involved. My finger hovered over the send button for a long moment. There would be no going back from this. Once sent, our marriage would be irreparably shattered, exposed in the most painful way possible. I thought about the 15 years we'd shared. The good times before things had changed. The dreams we'd built together. The future we'd planned. All of it tainted now by his choices. With a deep breath, I attached the video to a text message to Tom's phone. I didn't add any words. None were necessary. The video would speak for itself. Before I could reconsider, I pressed send and watched the progress bar as the file transferred. Done. There was no taking it back now. What I didn't anticipate was that Tom wouldn't be the first to see it. His sister Jenny was coming for Sunday dinner tomorrow, a weekly tradition in our house. I didn't consider that she might be with him when the message arrived. I didn't think about who else might be affected by my decision to expose the truth this way. All I knew was that the breaking point had finally arrived and there was no going back to the life we had before. I barely slept that night, wondering when Tom would see the video. His phone had been unusually quiet. No calls, no frantic texts asking what I'd sent him. I kept checking my own phone, half expecting an explosion of messages, but there was nothing. The silence was somehow worse than any confrontation I had imagined. Sunday morning arrived with a sense of impending doom. Sunlight streamed through the blinds as I lay awake, listening to Tom shower and get dressed. He hummed tunelessly, seemingly without a care in the world. Had he not checked his messages? Or was he just that good at pretending? Making pancakes, he called from the doorway. Your favorite. Blueberry. I stared at him, searching his face for any sign that he'd seen the video, but his expression remained cheerful, ordinary. It occurred to me that he might not have opened the message yet. Maybe it sat unread in his phone, a ticking time bomb waiting to explode our lives. I dragged myself out of bed and went through the motions of our Sunday routine. Coffee, newspaper, small talk about neighbors and weather. The normalcy felt surreal, like we were actors in a play, reciting lines while the theater burned around us. Jenny's bringing that apple pie you like, Tom mentioned as he rinsed dishes. The one from Johnson's bakery. Jenny. His sister. Our weekly Sunday dinner tradition that had persisted through 15 years of marriage. Jenny had been my friend even before Tom and I started dating. We'd taken the same community college classes, bonding over shared struggles with algebra. She was the reason Tom and I had met in the first place. The thought of facing her today with what I knew and what I'd done made my stomach churn. But canceling would raise questions I wasn't ready to answer. Jenny arrived at 4 p.m. sharp, bearing the promised pie and a bottle of wine. She embraced me tightly in the doorway, her familiar lavender perfume enveloping me. You look exhausted, she whispered, concern evident in her green eyes, so similar to her brother's that it made my chest ache. Everything okay? Just busy with end-of-year school stuff, I lied, taking the pie from her hands. Tom appeared behind me, greeting his sister with their usual playful banter. I escaped to the kitchen, grateful for the momentary reprieve from maintaining my facade of normalcy. The dinner itself was a masterclass in uncomfortable pretense. I pushed food around my plate, responding to questions with one-word answers while Tom carried the conversation, filling silences with stories about work that I now recognized were carefully edited to exclude Melissa. Sarah's car broke down the other day, Tom mentioned, reaching for the salt. Transmission issues, probably. That's terrible, Jenny replied, turning to me with sympathy. Want me to ask Mike to take a look? He's great with cars. Mike was Jenny's ex-husband, still on friendly terms with the family despite their divorce 3 years ago. I nodded gratefully, though I doubted I'd be keeping the car much longer. Soon everything would be divided between us. Vehicles, furniture, memories. After dinner, Tom stood to clear the plates. I'll get these. Why don't you ladies catch up? I've got those family photos from Mom's birthday to show you later, Jenny. As he disappeared into the kitchen, Jenny leaned toward me. Seriously, are you okay? You've barely said 10 words all night. Before I could answer, Tom's phone buzzed on the coffee table where he'd left it. Jenny glanced at it absently, then did a double take. Your phone's blowing up, Tom, she called toward the kitchen. When he didn't immediately respond, she picked it up, likely intending to bring it to him. That's when I realized what was happening. The notification preview must have shown the video attachment I'd sent. I'll take it to him, I said quickly, reaching for the phone, but it was too late. Jenny's thumb had already tapped the screen out of habit, opening the message. The video began to play automatically, the sound mercifully muted but the images unmistakable. I watched as her expression transformed from casual interest to shock, then horror. What the? Her voice cut off as the realization of what she was seeing hit her. Her face drained of color. Then came the scream, not a dramatic movie scream but something worse. A raw, guttural sound of genuine distress that seemed to come from deep within her. The phone slipped from her fingers, clattering to the hardwood floor as she stared at the screen in disbelief. Tom came running from the kitchen, dish towel still in hand. What happened? Are you okay? His eyes darted between his sister's stricken face and me, confusion evident until his gaze fell on his phone lying face up on the floor, the video still playing. In that moment, everything stopped. The comfortable lie we'd been living shattered like glass. Tom's face went through a rapid succession of emotions. Confusion, recognition, horror, and finally desperate calculation. Jenny, I can explain. In their bedroom? Jenny's voice was barely above a whisper, her eyes locked on me now. In their bed. The way she said it, the emphasis on their, struck me harder than any accusation could have. This wasn't just about betrayal between husband and wife. It was about the violation of something sacred, something that belonged to us. Sarah, Tom turned to me, panic rising in his voice. What is this? Why would you? Don't, I said quietly. Don't you dare try to turn this around on me. Jenny stood abruptly, knocking her chair backward. How could you? She demanded, facing her brother with trembling fury. After everything, after what Mom and Dad went through, you promised you'd never. Tom reached for her arm. Jenny, please. She recoiled from his touch as if burned. Don't touch me. Don't you dare touch me. The dining room had become a battlefield, with the three of us frozen in our positions, the weight of secrets and betrayals pressing down like a physical force. The smell of apple pie still lingered in the air, a cruel reminder of the normalcy we'd been pretending to maintain just minutes earlier. I need to go, Jenny whispered, already backing toward the door, grabbing her purse with shaking hands. I can't be here right now. As she fumbled with the door handle, she turned back to face me, her eyes filled with tears. I'm so sorry, Sarah. I didn't know. Then she was gone, leaving Tom and me alone with the truth that could no longer be denied or explained away. The front door clicked shut behind Jenny, leaving a silence so profound I could hear the wall clock ticking in the hallway. Tom stood frozen, his face ashen as the full weight of the situation settled over both of us. How long have you known? He finally asked, his voice barely audible. Does it matter? I replied, surprised by the steadiness in my own voice. Would it change anything if I said a day? A week? A month? He sank into the dining chair, head in his hands. I can explain. Don't. The word came out sharper than I intended. There's nothing to explain, Tom. I saw the videos. Not just what I sent you, all of them. I know about the trips, the dinners, the hotels. I know about the bracelet you bought her, the one that cost more than our last anniversary gift. His shoulders slumped further with each revelation. When he looked up, I expected to see contrition, maybe even tears. Instead, his expression held something closer to relief. I wanted to tell you, he said, so many times. I couldn't figure out how. A bitter laugh escaped my lips. So bringing her into our home, into our bed, that was easier? The conversation that followed lasted well into the night. There were moments of shouting, moments of icy silence, and brief, painful instances where we both seemed to remember the people we used to be to each other. By dawn, one thing was clear. Our marriage was over. The only question that remained was how we would end it. I think we should try counseling, Tom suggested as sunlight began filtering through the blinds. Dr. Patterson helped my colleague Richard and his wife after he had an affair? I finished for him. This isn't just about the affair, Tom. It's about the lies. The disrespect. Bringing her into our home. He had no answer for that. We both knew some lines once crossed couldn't be uncrossed. The week that followed was a strange limbo. We moved around each other like ghosts, sleeping in separate rooms, speaking only when necessary about practical matters. Tom stayed home. Melissa had suddenly taken personal leave from the office, according to the stilted explanation he offered one evening. Jenny called me 3 days after the Sunday dinner disaster. "I'm coming over," she said, her voice leaving no room for argument. "And Tom better not be there." I assured her he wouldn't be. He'd mentioned something about meeting with a lawyer. The word lawyer still felt foreign on my tongue, like vocabulary from someone else's life. When Jenny arrived, she carried 2 bottles of wine and a determined expression. "I've been thinking about kicking my brothers behind since I was 7 years old," she announced, setting the bottles on my kitchen counter with unnecessary force. "But I never thought he'd deserve it this much." Despite everything, I found myself smiling. Jenny's loyalty had always been one of her best qualities. Now, remarkably, that loyalty was directed at me rather than her brother. "Have you decided what you're going to do?" she asked after we'd settled in the living room, wine glasses in hand. "File for divorce," I replied, the words still strange but growing more familiar each time I said them. "I called a lawyer yesterday." Jenny nodded approvingly. "Good. And the house?" "I want to sell it. Too many memories. Too many cameras," I thought but didn't say. To my surprise, Jenny became my rock during those first turbulent weeks. She helped me interview divorce attorneys, accompanied me to the bank to open separate accounts, and even assisted with cataloging our shared possessions. A particularly painful task that involved photographing furniture, appliances, and the accumulated mementos of 15 years together. "He's not getting the stand mixer," she declared firmly, placing a post-it note with my name on the KitchenAid. "You're the one who bakes." Tom moved out 3 weeks after Jenny discovered the video. The day he left, I watched from the living room window as he loaded boxes into his car. He seemed smaller somehow, diminished. When he came back in for the last of his things, he paused in the entryway. "I am sorry," he said quietly. "I know that doesn't fix anything, but I am." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. After he left, I walked through the half-empty house, feeling both hollowed out and strangely liberated. The walls that had witnessed our betrayal would soon belong to someone else. The thought was comforting. The divorce proceedings were surprisingly civil. Neither of us wanted a drawn-out battle. Tom didn't contest the division of assets I proposed. His sister's continued loyalty to me rather than him seemed to have subdued any fight he might have put up. "Jenny won't even return my calls," he mentioned during one of our meetings with the mediator. "Mom and Dad barely speak to me." I felt a twinge of sympathy despite myself. Family had always been important to Tom. Losing them might have hurt him more than losing me. 4 months after the Sunday dinner that changed everything, I signed the final divorce papers. The same day, I accepted an offer on the house. A young couple expecting their first child, full of hopes and plans for the future. I wished them better luck than we'd had. Moving day arrived with unexpected sunshine after a week of rain. As I stood in the empty living room where I'd spent over a decade of my life, I felt a strange sense of peace wash over me. The rooms no longer echoed with betrayal. They were just spaces waiting for new stories to fill them. "Ready?" Jenny asked from the doorway, car keys in hand. She'd offered her guest room until I found a new place of my own. "Almost," I replied. "Give me 1 more minute." When she stepped outside, I took a final walk through the empty house. In the bedroom, I removed the hidden camera from the bookshelf, the last remnant of the surveillance network I'd created in my desperation to know the truth. I considered leaving it behind, buried among the built-in shelves, but that seemed like passing on a curse to the innocent family moving in. Instead, I dropped it into my purse. Later, I would throw it away somewhere far from here. Some tools, even when necessary, shouldn't be kept once they've served their purpose. Outside, Jenny waited in her car, sunglasses pushed up on her head, radio playing softly. At 52, I was starting over, not something I'd ever imagined for myself. Yet as I locked the front door for the final time, I realized that rebuilding wasn't just about finding a new place to live. It was about rediscovering the person I'd been before betrayal made me someone I didn't recognize. That person was still in there somewhere. And for the first time in months, I was looking forward to finding her again.